Hello and welcome to episode 2, season 2 of the Close Encounters podcast. It's been a fairly busy couple of weeks for me with a house move, as you well know, and other factors at play. I've been unable to find suitable time to edit and publish our podcasts. However, I've still more to edit and publish, and we will start with Andrea's sides in this episode. But before that, we will cover some of the most interesting articles that I've found over the last week. Then we will go on to the interview segment, which is fairly long, but stick with it because Andrea gives some really useful advice if you're into the self-help topic and how you can eliminate the need for any further external books or coaches, and how positive and negative things can advance or hinder your spiritual development. And to be honest, it really didn't seem that long, and I could have spoken to Andrea for much longer, she well knows. And then, you know what, I've considered splitting this episode in two, but alas, it can always be paused and come back to. Or maybe you're like me, if you start a podcast episode, you want to listen to it from start to finish without any unnecessary interruption. And then to finish off, as always, it will be a brief wrap-up of what to look forward to in the next episode. So with that in mind, let's go straight over to That's What I Call News. Yes, let's go straight into it actually. The best UFO hotspots mapped by geographers according to IFL Science. 2 geographers and a representative from the US Department of Defense troll through data published by the National UFO Research Center of over a total of over 98,000 reports spanning almost 2 decades from the years 2001 to 2020. The thermal-like image map shows the hotspots and cold spots for reported UFO activity in the United States, with large swathes of the western states highlighted as hotspots and an area in New England on the east coast. Now, the findings lead the researchers to conclude that the reason for this is because they either are in an area with expansive dark areas ideal for stargazing, or they're near military establishments. But I would argue it would probably be more to do with the geological makeup of the terrain, and I would look more into that aspect as well, especially as they seem to be near areas of immense tectonic energies and coastal areas. And looking back at Northern Ireland, our areas that we get a lot of reports from tend to cover the Mourne Mountains, the coastal areas, etc. So it might be worth looking at that. Let us go over to sciencealert.com. Planet 9, or Planet X if you're old school like me, may have one last place to hide. Now, a recent study published in the Astronomical Journal outlines its search for the hypothesized Planet 9, or 10 if, like me, you still accept Pluto as a major planet. Planet 9, which, if exists, is thought to lurk beyond the orbit of Pluto and have a mass of 5 to 10 times that of Earth. And it was first hypothesized shortly after the discovery of Neptune in 1846. The elusive planet, if it exists, would help explain a lot of what goes on in the outer reaches of the solar system. The aim of the study was to narrow down the possible locations of the planet and have so far eliminated 78% of possible locations. It's an interesting area of astronomy to keep an eye on and could perhaps reignite the argument of the existence of Nibiru, which I would say watch this space. Mainstream news now picking up on increased solar activity. This is from sciencealert.com. If you are a follower of the YouTube channel Suspicious Observers, then you're probably already aware that the sun is getting dangerously active at the moment as it starts to reach the end of its 12-year solar cycle. But last week, the sun spewed out enough high-intensity solar flares to capture the attention of mainstream media outlets. A post from Science Alert last week covers a 24-hour period where 3 X-class flares were ejected from the sun, and though the flares weren't directed at Earth, it was still enough to interfere with radio communications, and if you're in the States, you'd know that a major cellular network was down for a considerable amount of time during this period. Though the Earth has been lucky so far to miss a direct hit from a dense solar flare, our luck could soon run out, according to researcher and founder of Suspicious Observers, Ben Davidson, who says that while larger solar flares would be a catastrophic event for us, it wouldn't necessarily be an extinction level event. Eyes open on this story, it is worth keeping an eye on. And finally, amateur astrophotographers are called to aid scientists in a major solar wind study. This is from space.com. If you are a keen amateur astronomer and have a decent telescope and camera setup, then this just might be for you. Researchers at the University of Reading are calling on the help of amateur astronomers to capture timed photographs of a broken-tailed comet coming this spring. The comet, known officially as C2021 S3 Pan-STARRS, which is a bit of a mouthful, I know, is due to pass Earth at a similar distance to that of where we would be from the Sun at that time, and it's thought that the comet will be fairly bright. It's expected that as the comet travels through the solar system, it will be battered considerably by localized solar winds composed of charged particles from the Sun. Now, the term broken tail is coined from the expectation that due to the intensity of the solar wind in its local area of travel, it may be strong enough to detach its tail. So using the visual distortion of the comet's tail will help aid the researchers in understanding of how solar winds work and may help predict when a solar storm might be imminent. So if you've got a decent setup, follow the link provided in the show notes below and get your images from there. And for that caps off the news. So, in this episode, we will explore the concept of aura reading, remote viewing, and telekinesis, among many other things. So, Andrea Sides, a self-improvement expert and medium, has led a rather interesting life since childhood, which led her on a journey of self-discovery, which allowed her to embrace an array of psychic abilities. And as such, she's been using these skills to help people for over 30 years, allowing them to eliminate the need for self-help books and external help. I have her with me in this episode, all the way from Mauritius. I must say, I'm really jealous. I've already told her this, and believe it or not, it's a lovely place. And Andrea, how do you do?
Hey, hi Chris. Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate you. I would consider myself more of like an intuitive architect or like a spiritual catalyst. I'm not crazy about the word medium, but I think that was my bad. But for sure, I really like to empower people to find their own intuitive voice and their inner knowing. I seem to be really good at that, which is really wonderful and it's a huge doorway to what you do, the Northern Ireland UFO Society. When people want to know about paranormal or UFOs, instead of looking exteriorly and outside of ourselves, we should always go interiorly first and making sure that we're stable there first. So this is a nice meeting. It's synchronistic, and I really appreciate you having me here on your show.
Now, I certainly appreciate you popping onto the show because I'm going to put the cards down on the table right now. This is not my strongest point, so I'm going to be learning here, hopefully, along with other people as well listening to this. But I guess, first off, tell us a little bit more about yourself and what you do, because I'm sure you can explain it much better than I can at the moment.
Yeah, sure. As we move forward, I like to show people more of like what I do, and that they can experience it firsthand as we, continue the podcast. And I'll even open it up with a little bit of a meditation. And I have something here to share called the 8 powers. And what it does is it really it prepares people spiritually, mentally, emotionally, physically, psychically to embody and develop these different 8 powers before working with UFOs or in the paranormal field. And the more you develop these abilities, and you could probably listen to this podcast over and over again, and it's going to have you go deeper and deeper into embodying these. And that's for the better, of course, because it creates this inner stability. We can't go to higher. So I have been raising, I don't say, but I have been changing my frequency into more of love and compassion and neutrality. And I find that I'm doing this, that my life flows. And so my life has really been about, looking for love all in the wrong places when I was younger, right? I was a very loving child. I was a very kind child. I always wanted to help people out and do all of that. But during that process, I was also very empathic. And pretty soon I didn't know what was mine and what was other people's. I thought that everybody else's problems and feelings was mine. But what it was is I was actually feeling people when they were uncomfortable or if they were having problems, at home or these things. And I didn't have nobody taught me the skills of how to decipher, okay, what is mine? And so I'm sitting here trying to always heal and what's wrong with me and what's going on and all these things happening. And it wasn't, most of the time, it wasn't even me, it was the people that were around me. So it wasn't until later in life that I started going, wait a minute. Like, I think one of the biggest aha moments that I had was like, oh my gosh, as I was developing spiritually and I was able to separate and have really good spiritual hygiene, that I was able to see what was other people's and what was mine. And then the abilities really started opening up. I was able to see what was going on in people's bodies. I was able to see what was going on in mine. I could see that through my intuitive knowledge and also my connection with the stars and the magnetic field of the earth, that I put that together and infused it with light and went to the 0 point energy, that I could really start doing healing for myself. And I was able to observe other people's blocks or patterns and things like that. And through these images that I would get, I would be able to walk people through and clearing childhood traumas, patterns that especially people get between the ages of, and they're in the womb till 7, any other things, relationship problems. I was always that person that people really trusted and went to because they knew that I was really present. I always listened and I embodied what they said. Now I don't so much embody it. Now I stay where I'm at and I'm able to put people in their own like ball of light or their own essence. I don't need to feel all of that, but it's just as effective. And through, doing it over and over and over again, you get to a place where you become more masterful.
Have you found that whenever you were able to, sense people and read people, like you were saying there, did that, if they were thinking negatively or anything, did that brush off onto you as well? And if it did you find like a method to fire up like a protective measure to stop it bouncing back on you?
Yeah, that's a really good question. Thanks for asking it. So what happened is I always wanted just to help people out. I've always been just really full of love. And then what happens is I did go through some troubles when I was like, a teenager and, I was very rebellious. I wanted out of the house. I wanted to do things my own way. I wanted the freedom. I wanted these things, but for I always wanted best. And like I said, I used to take all of that stuff, the negativity and stuff, instead of like wanting to lash out, I felt like I just wanted more expansion and freedom. Like I was like, this can't be the only way. Like there can't be just these confinements and people can't just put other people in these emotional confinements and be so negative to each other. And I remember always trying to transmute it, but I transmuted it with love. So in my experience, the more that we develop, and this is part of the 8 powers actually, is that more that we, and I'm not just saying to say this when people say you got to love yourself, you got to love yourself unconditionally. No, when you really make it a practice more than anything in the whole, more than anything in your world, to love yourself and do things like, as an example, like if you don't know how to love yourself, when there's a decision to be made, or you're faced with, a relationship or a conversation, before blurting things out or just regurgitating what you always do, to be able to ask yourself, what does somebody that loves themselves unconditionally or that loves themselves, what would they do in this situation? And I'll tell you, just that piece of information right there for your viewers, if they did that for 6 weeks, I with my clients, I ask them to do it for a year, but inside of 6 weeks, your whole life changes because you become self-aware and you see where you are lying to yourself. And it's amazing what kind of shadow work comes up as you're doing that. So it's about love. So if you have shadows and you have other things that are like hidden behind your veil, your facade, and you are easily triggered by other people, it means you probably have that inside of yourself that needs to be looked at, or maybe you're making certain promises to yourself that you're not even aware of and that you're not holding true to. So when you ask yourself and you practice this love and unconditional love, it's natural protection.
I suppose that makes a lot of sense actually, because it's positivity and love always seems to, and it just seems to be natural to negate anything that's negative, and it helps raise that frequency as well, I suppose. But
Mm.
you were saying about people, shadow work, and some of the problems are behind that feel. Some of the problems that you try to identify and get them to sort of fix, has any of that spilled
Mhm.
over from past lives before, do you think? Or is it purely focused on this life?
I think it's a little bit of both, and I think that the only way to know that is to bring yourself very present. So another very good question. I'm probably not going to answer it exactly like maybe you're used to people
No, you answer it how
answering it,
you
but the more that you develop this awareness and you do the shadow work and you bring yourself in the present moment and you have awareness of your emotions. Okay. And that you start, and you're not just savage, meaning that, you react to the outside world, that you start developing the way that you want to feel. You develop your emotions. You get to know yourself. You get to know how you react. And through meditation and also connecting, we were talking about being able, and I can do a quick meditation here, as far as connecting to the light, connecting to like where we were birthed from, where we came from, and then where we live, like the earth, right? To be able to say thank you. Oh my goodness, you provide me with the food, you provide me, with my housing, and give thanks for that, and then be able to what they call ground yourself. But what it really is that you're connecting and bringing yourself presence to where your physical body is, so that you can, and then you can also connect, spiritually or paranormally or extraterrestrial. Okay, so when you're doing all of this, there's no time and space and dimensions and things like that. So I mean, there is many dimensions, there's many timelines, but again, you bring yourself more in the present and you first get to know. I think that people go too fast in the back and in past lives and things before they are exploring what they're feeling now. Because if you're not knowing how you are feeling emotionally and how that feels in the body, you first have to identify something in the body. And we are very knowledgeable about that. So even if you're like in bed at night and somebody, you can't sleep or whatever, and you have a pain or you have something that you want to question about, you can say, okay, what am I feeling in my body? All right. So when did I first get this? And you might get an age, or you might get, what is this connected to? It might be a past life, it might be at 4 years old, it might be 8 years old. Okay. And just, you have to trust yourself, so you have to develop this inner knowing. Okay. So, and then you can say, okay, so 8 years old comes up. Okay, and where did I get this? Where did this first come around? And I'm talking about this, Chris, because before you have an ailment or something gets to where it's negative and it feels out of control, there's always a root to it, all right? Or you might have picked it up from someone else. Like, okay, 8 years old, I got it from dad. Okay, what is the energy around that? The energy is around, not being good enough. Okay. All
Yeah.
right. So anywhere and everywhere that I was 8 years old, that I have this pain in my kidney that I got from my dad. And then sometimes when you're really listening and you're holding yourself in a neutral position, you're asking these questions: how old? Who did it come from? Where is it in my body? And now I want to go ahead and or what is the emotion attached to it? And now I want to clear it. All right. So you say, I'm clear and transmute all of this through all time, dimension, space, and reality. When I picked this up from my dad at 8 years old, okay, and not being worthy. And you do that, clearing and transmuting through all time, dimension, space, and reality. It's not just the words that we're saying, but it's also, the value is in focusing your mind. You're focusing on your inner world and you're starting to listen. So at first this might feel very clumsy to people. It might feel like there's no way that could work. Well, let me tell you something. If you can pick it up from somebody else and somebody can tell you that you're not worthy and are really negative to you, and you feel that in your body and you like feel nervous, or you feel, you start feeling unworthy, or you want to lash out to them and say, who's that person think they are? And then the gossiping starts. You're just regurgitating all that negativity. You better believe that you have just just as much power, more power than how that ailment came about. So if you're able to go interiorly, have a process to be able to acknowledge the negativity or the emotion, where it is in the body, and tell yourself that you want to clear it. Even in that moment, if it doesn't clear, the universe, the world, the whatever will give you, you'll start to see signs in your life on how that you can clear this, how your life can get better. Synchronicity, somebody might come into your life to help you, or, this, or it might even be with finances. It might be, with your physical health. It might be with your mental health, spiritually. It can be any of that. But it's the inner dialogue that people really, really have to start than just looking outside all the time for the answers. I mean, and I'm hearing spirits telling me people only have to do this 10% of the time, and it would change their life tremendously, tremendously.
I mean, it almost sounds like you're coaching them through a self-assessment. That you're
Mm,
not exactly telling them what to. You're guiding them what to do is what it sounds like there.
yes.
And
Very good, Chris. I love that. I love because they have to come up with the answers. I'm just helping. I'm just being neutral and
yeah,
stepping back so that they can be the healers of their own life. You
and,
got that right.
yeah, and I suppose that, again that purely comes from your experience in childhood and obviously growing up, and then you've been helping people now for 30 odd years, and it's great that you do that there because
Mhm.
a lot of times people who go towards these sort of self-help groups and what have you, they're looking externally. They're looking for an external source of help
Mm,
or a quick fix solution. But what you're
yes.
saying is that the answers, a lot of Eastern religions say this to you. We're talking about Buddhism, what have you. That the answers aren't external; it comes from within. You just need to know how to look for it.
That's right. And that's absolutely right. And being able to do something and do a repetitive pattern. So one of the things that I really learned that really opened up my intuitive abilities and helped me decipher those things is learning to meditate and embody something called just white light. All right. A white light illumination for, 5, 10 minutes in the morning, during and after. And I know people hear about it, but they're like, oh, okay, well, I don't know about that. But it's just to bring awareness to the body. So, as an example, so that you can feel and sense a white light or sense it's really sensing your body, right? And then so like as an example, you want to imagine like white light, like you could even do it, it doesn't have to be like long winded, right? Imagine like a lightning strike throughout the body, including the skeletal structure, nerves, organs, and skin. Like it's just giving you vitality, right? And in that moment you can expand and you're feeling all your body. You're asking to be able to speed this up because I know that people nowadays, they want everything to happen pretty quick, right?
Yes, they do.
They
Yeah.
want to. Yeah, and so the white lightning, boom, it's in your body. You're feeling vitalized. Okay, I want to feel my body. I want to know what's going on. And then as you're breathing, because our breath connects us to the spirit and it connects us to our vitality and it connects us to the earth, our physical experience. I don't want any of this to feel too esoteric, or I demystify a lot of the stuff that is like that seems too esoteric, and make it where it's tangible for people, right? So that they can wrap their mind. Because I want it from anybody that's just a beginner, to somebody that's been doing this for 30 or 40 years. That they can get something out of it. So let's imagine you're doing that, or maybe when you're sleeping, you're going to bed. One of the best ways is to be able to connect to light from within your solar plexus or within the center of your body. And as you're breathing, you breathe in, you connect with whatever light. And sometimes it's not even white light, sometimes it's just a warmth. Right? It's just an awareness, and that you want to bring your awareness more out. So as you breathe, every time you breathe out, you expand that awareness around your body, and more and more and more. So the illumination now is now 20 feet above around your body. It's 30 feet around your body, 40 feet, 50 feet. And then pretty soon your whole household actually starts transforming. But this is also a really natural way to claim your space and also clear out anything that is not wanted there. Okay, so
Yeah.
this is really, and it also opens up your heart space for compassion, to communicate with people. You have more of a light behind your eyes, and it helps with neutrality. And it really helps you with understanding. It's a really great way to start understanding your emotions. All right. So when you're doing this, so the white light throughout your body, and until that it's starting to come out of your crown. And so what I have people do is creatively. It doesn't have this doesn't have to be. So we are creative, with the arts and with music and our favorite pop songs and all these other things. Why not use your creativity and get your childlike enthusiasm back, and start and asking yourself what kind of world do you have in there, what kind of world do you want to create, right? So we come from the stars, we come from the universe. If even science proves this, all right? So let's say that the one star up there you're connected to, or even in past lives, or with UFOs, or whatever that it is yours. And you just imagine your heart space going straight out of your crown chakra, going all the way up to your star. And this is just for fun. This is playful. This is not supposed to be like woo woo or whatever, but it empowers you. It gives you. I challenge any skeptic to try it. Find their star, have that energy of that star, connect to whatever else energies. You can even do this if you want UFO, contacts, that type of thing. But I would clear your own energy and connect to your own energy first. And you're going to understand how important this is and how this expands the possibility for you to have communication with UFOs or be able to the interdimensional beings that are a part of our Earth, right? Okay, so you're doing that. You're connecting to your star. You're breathing in. You're filling and you're illuminating your intent. Your focus is getting better within your physical body. You're doing the internal work, and now you're going down, 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 and you're connecting with the magnetic field of the earth and inside the earth. Inside the earth, as you work and you start practicing within the earth, there's this warmth. There's this warm feeling and love, an incredible love, a crystalline energy that's love that wants to support you and all your endeavors and all your creativity. And it wants to support your inner knowledge and your universal wisdom, because when it comes from that, you are living a life that is very fulfilled with wishes granted, and the earth wants that too. Because when you take care of yourself, guess what, Chris? You take care of your planet. You take care of your surroundings. You become, and I do this in a quotation, a better person. You feel better. You're more likable. Your synchronicities happen, more flow happens. And so what I have my clients do is I have them connect to this white light. And that is a kind of a meditation you can do when you're sleeping and when you wake up. But you put like a timer on your phone 8 times throughout the day. And just imagine that lightning strike through you. Boom, boom. Right now, what I'm doing is my intention is to connect to the light, illuminate my whole body, give thanks to my body, be aware of my emotions. I want to be masterful of my emotions. I want to elevate my emotions so that I'm not so savage. I'm not reacting to people, places, and things. I'm creating possibilities in my life, and then boom, expanding. And then throughout your whole day, you're going to notice that more people are going to talk to you. You meet new people, or new circumstances come in because the possibilities start to expand all around you. Okay, now this is no different. There's the reason that we're on this UFO. There's no difference between your world right here, and you bring all that presence. The presence that you have within this inner world that you have is so much more richer than even what we have without. All right. And then as you're connecting to this, then this is more of a possibility that you can have paranormal or ET experiences because you are prepared. You know how you always hear that people can't have, like they have to, their ETs or different things are in completely different frequencies, and they
Yeah.
have to actually take our consciousness out of our body in order for us to be aware and connect to them. This is why. This is one of the reasons why, is because people have not prepared themselves internally and raised their frequency enough to interact. It's not that they don't want to, it's we have work to do for ourselves. And this is where, when people say the new world and everything, this is where telepathic communication comes in. This is where compassion comes in. There are no shadows. And what I mean, there's always shadow work, but there is no hiding it. when you get to this is why I'm able to see people. I'm able to see people in all their light and all their shadows, because I've done so much of my own shadow work, and I'm sure that there's more. There always is, but the more that you do that and you develop this inner intuition, this inner knowledge, that universal wisdom that Einstein, all our masters had, all the religions were created from, we have that within, and this is the beginning point of how to access that.
Do you know, that is interesting, and it does resonate 100% because I've said this
Mm,
before in the podcast. I was just speaking to one of the lads back at home, Fra McDonald, who's the founder
mm,
and owner of Shadowhunters Northern Ireland. And I've been out
mhm.
on a few paranormal investigations with people before, different groups and what have you. But their group always seems to get the most activity. And the reason now is clear because I'd never really thought about it before, but it's because you've said that if you go out prepared for it and meditate and, sort of work on yourself and your
Yes.
frequencies, you're more receptive to it and therefore more things happen. And I have seen more things happen with them than I have with anyone else. And that is because Fra, he worked on himself in that sort of way. The group meditates. I think there might be a couple of practicing witches in there as well who do that, and they always get results. And also, it's whenever we were on our watch nights in Northern Ireland and Donegal, particularly in Donegal, we had two spiritual practicing witches there, and they did like a little sort of little ceremony that they wanted to do, and it was
Mm,
about opening up and willing to see these things and be receptive to these things.
yeah.
So
Well,
it
you don't
does
have
it
to be
does
a
make a lot of
witch for
sense.
sure
Well, no,
to
it's,
do
it's
this.
just
This
no,
is
you
stuff that
definitely
people
don't.
have to do. Yeah,
Yeah,
I
no,
know.
you
I just
definitely
want to make
don't.
sure that
Oh no,
people
no,
are
no,
not
no. I know what you mean.
associating me with
Oh no,
that
no, no.
too. But
It's just
I
saying that.
understand what you're
Yeah,
saying.
because our group is a mix of like logical thinking people and spiritual thinking people. And the spiritual thinking people, I mean, they've seen things that I can't see because of how spiritually advanced that they are, and that's how I would have put it down to. And you sort of confirmed that as well. And
Yeah,
are you aware of Stephen Greer, Doctor Stephen Greer?
I'm
He's
not. No.
he used to be like a medical doctor or surgeon in the United States, and he left it and he started on the UFO thing, and he developed a sort of meditation that you do called CE5. And
Mm,
it's like
nice.
I don't know the ins and outs of it because I haven't subscribed to it yet, but I do know that it's like a meditation, and you're pretty much saying that I'm here, I want to see you, etc. And without fail, anyone who does CE5 will always see the lights in the sky, etc. They always reveal
Yes.
themselves to them, and that does make a lot of sense
Sure.
actually. Yeah, it's all to do with frequency, isn't it?
Yes, absolutely. And how you're prepared. So the ET or any of these experiences, if you're going to be, scared and, screwed out of your mind, or that you haven't done your own inner work, you think about it, Chris, if you're not willing to be able to look at your own fears and your own things that you're afraid of or your own shadows, why would you bring other stuff in that is fearful in general? I'm not saying that everybody's fearful of these things, but in general it is uncomfortable. It's a different frequency. You have to be able to do it's similar as far as in the work that you have to do with inside of yourself first and reach these frequencies to have these experiences. You can't, I mean, some people, yes, they're able to go from here to here, but you'll hear that these people talk about being abducted and how crazy it was, and maybe they didn't have good experiences and all this other stuff. That's not necessarily the way that it needs to go. But most likely, were these people meditators? Were they, or did they have any spiritual development? It doesn't have to be that way.
Interesting. So, really,
Hmm.
it makes it sound more accessible to everyone, and not just select few people. So
That's correct.
anyone can engage with it,
That's
which is
correct.
fantastic. And it's funny you
Yeah.
say that as well. That back in 2000, I think it was 11, 2010. I That's when I was researching all this UFO stuff and the spirituality side of things and working on myself spiritually. I haven't done that in quite
Mhm.
some time, and I've noticed the effects have gone downhill again in respect to
Mhm.
spirituality. But when I was
Mhm.
going down the spiritual route, and it's just something you said earlier that triggered this memory. I was sat in a well-known supermarket within the UK for a lunch break, and I got myself a cup of tea and what have you, and you go up to the women who serve you behind the counter, you get your sandwich, get your cup of tea, and go and sit down. And I don't know
Mhm.
any of them personally. I don't. And I was busy having my tea, and the girl, or one of the girls behind the hot food counter, she decided that she was going to take her break at that point early. And then she just randomly sat down in front of me, and I'm like, "Hi,
Beautiful.
how can I help?" And then she just spilled out for no reason at all. The problem,
Mm.
the biggest problem that she was facing in her life at that time. And I don't know where this advice come from. I can't even remember the advice I give her, but it just seemed to be as if I was just relaying what was being given to me. I can't explain it. It's not something that I thought of. It was just me talking, and it seemed to resonate and make sense there. And she felt a hell of a lot better. So,
I love it. You
our,
had presence and you didn't know her, so you had neutrality. So
yeah,
when you are focused on someone and you have those two things, that you can go and you can sense things because there's not a whole bunch of other attachments and things pulling you outside of that conversation. So it's easier to access what your all-knowing wisdom has, and you're able just to, that's the way we're meant to be, Chris. We're meant to be in the moment, be genuine, be real, be authentic in the sense, and be able to assist people without giving all, and it actually adds to your life force, your vitality and power versus just giving it away. So beautiful example.
yeah, it's amazing. It's just as you said that, I remembered that. And of course, I haven't really had anything like that happen in a long time, but I haven't been, meditating in years, I suppose, and working on myself spiritually. So it does go to show that, what you're saying there does ring to be some truth about it. So, and I'm testament to that, I could say. And what you
Yeah,
do
yeah.
helps bring that out of other people or helps them bring it out of themselves.
Yes. And here's the thing, you know what's so beautiful about this, Chris, is this is where people are like, oh, spirituality, religion, all this other stuff. So I don't even have to say like spiritual. So when you do these, you're just bringing awareness for those that are triggered by those things. Okay, let's just clear all beliefs out. So if you didn't believe anything, let's just bring it back to being present and being aware of who you are and yourself, where you can observe, be present, stay neutral, bring in, more light, a sense of self, self-actualization. They say for, in psychology or whatever. I don't know what they say in science, being a true human. You think about it, to keep yourself grounded in this human form and reality requires awareness. And that's when you're able to get in the best physical fitness of your life. When you are focusing, you are mentally on top of things. When you are aware of your body, all these things can connect holistically. So it's not just about the spirituality, it's about who we are and fully human, and then our connection, if you want to put on with the divine or our spirituality or something that is bigger and broader than us. It's an acknowledgement and an appreciation of your body and soul, and incorporating all of those realities together so that you can be powered up for a full on just life, right? It's the power and vitality of the human body, and its awareness, its self realization. The reason that most people feel drained after their experiences with people or work or whatever is because they're focusing so much on the outside and reactive to what is expected, what other people want. And they are like a puppet on a string. And when you learn to go into work or you learn to go into your relationships and you check in with yourself and you start developing this more and more, everything, it's not just spirituality, everything becomes more amplified, it becomes more enjoyable, it becomes more sensitive, it becomes more attuned to love or elevated. Your intelligence is heightened, your health and your health improves, your highest wisdom comes. And if you really develop, you get to play in the universe, the angels, the UFOs, and the paranormal. This is this is it's all part of it. We're holistic that way. Does that make sense?
It does actually, yeah. And I'm hoping it
Mhm.
makes sense to a lot more people as well. The way you describe it certainly does make sense to me anyway, and it should make sense to other people. But you know, if it
Yeah.
doesn't, I encourage them to reach out to you and ask you more to pick your brains about it because it's an absolutely fascinating topic, and you know, it's something I could listen to because I'm still that's something like I've said I'm not overly familiar with or strong with, but it's something I'm willing to learn, and I could just sit down and listen to this all day because a lot of it does make a hell of a lot of sense. And there was something you said, a couple of things you said already, and I have to ask this one, and it's a simple question. You said that there was like a drawing to the stars for you.
Mm,
I've had that before. I've been drawn to the Pleiades and I've been drawn to Cassiopeia before,
yum.
especially when I'm growing up,
Mm.
when I was growing up. Was there any sort of particular star or star system that you were drew to or still are drawn to?
It's so funny you're asking me this. So this is where I'm at in my development, my dear. I am starting to talk with people from all over the world now, and people that are what they call, I didn't know about this, hybrids. Hybrids,
Yeah, yeah.
people that, yes, I didn't know this existed until I'm talking to them and they're telling me about the Pleiades and what is it, Andromedas, or like all these different star systems and things. And when I do certain meditations or I take people through detaching any entities, UFOs, gadgets, gidgets, earthbound spirits, demonic, anything, negative spirit guides, lower vibrational parts. I'm not saying all of those things are that, but I'm just going to give you an example, right? Is that I will see what is on a person and I learn about it as I'm on the person, as I'm neutral, and I remote view myself kind of out and I look. And at the same time, I see other beings and other beings, we'll just say beings, right? Is that the correct
Yeah, I
thing to
mean,
say?
beings,
What
entities,
helping
whatever
and
you want to describe it as,
assisting
yeah.
these people. Yes, I see them assisting the people as I'm observing their clearing. And so this is the only way that I know. And then when I'm connecting to my star system, it's just invigorating and giving me vitality within in my body and in my clients and things like that. So I'm able to see. But I am just like you, Chris, just like you, I am learning now, and I'm starting to attract all these different people. They're saying, Andrea, when you do this, this is this kind of trait from this star system. And I'm like, really? And they're like, yeah. And then I'll tell them another thing. And they said, well, you sound like you're from this, and this. And I'm like, okay, that's great. I didn't know any of this, but I'm open to hearing if it resonates within myself somewhere. And then I trust as I'm, opening up to this and becoming more aware that I will learn more about what that is and how that it can, assist my life and then assist other people with any healing. Because it seems to be have you noticed with this too that the higher wisdom, or like with the beings, that it's there to either be benevolent or really help us to be able to evolve, or with our health and with our healing. So I think that it's important to know. But I seem to connect with this type of thing when I'm working with clients, or I go into my meditations and I'll see something like in the back of my mind, or I'll see it in the front, or I'll see a face, or whatever that it is. And it's usually for pretty brief. But it starts with the light. It started with the light and connecting with that inspiration and intention, and then imagining with the magnetic field, meaning bringing it down, bringing heaven and earth, as you hear from people saying, right? Or your spiritual to be grounded, so you're not always woo woo, that you're bringing that integrity into the spiritual, physical, emotional, into your reality, this reality that we're here, in our physical bodies, because our physical bodies are the dream of the soul anyways, right? So I know that's a long answer, but this is also coming, this might be even coming from
It might be coming
from
from,
them,
yeah.
right? So being able to do that, yes. So being able to first inspiration come inside your body and connecting with the star. And I think this is beautiful that you've had these experiences. And I would just ask questions when you are in that divine frequency, and making sure that when you're in that neutral space and you're connecting and using your creativity and your imagination, it is a catalyst. Our creativity and our imagination is a catalyst to being able to understand more of those things.
And that does make a lot of sense as well, especially whenever I was going through that sort of spiritual transformation, that you always get hit with like a wave of, like a yearning to be more creative and learning. And yeah, as what you were doing there, you were answering a question, and you just speak, and whatever comes out, and you sometimes
Mhm.
you're like, where the hell does that come from? It's wise, it's sensible, but it's not something that you yourself perhaps would have thought of. Like you sort of alluded that it could
You
be
got it.
prompted by them, and that's only really ever happened to me when I'm in that zone, or when I'm in that sort of creative, mindset, and that's always been very good whenever
Yeah,
I've
I
been
think
doing
you're more than,
meditations.
yeah, I think you're there more than you think, Chris, because if you're able to see it, because I can feel my connection to you even right now, and I
Yeah.
can feel that you recognize that. And it's so beautiful. And thank you so much for doing this. And here's the thing too, is that our highest self, when we're looking at what your audience, so this is just you and I are having this beautiful conversation, but other people are going to be listening to this podcast. And I really believe that the answers that are coming, the questions that you're asking and that I'm answering and we're relating to, is going to relate to each person that comes onto this part and listens to this. And I hope that they get some really golden nuggets for themselves that elevate and give them a catalyst into this creativity, into this imagination, into their wholeness, their brightness, their wishes fulfilled, having a fulfilling life, having more vitality, in their life, and and elevating themselves, and feeling good. Like we all want to feel good, right? Like, so
It's
I'm
human nature,
hoping,
yeah.
they always know. They always know, right? It's the stuff that comes, they know who's listening and who's coming in. And I just trust that.
And again, I'm just, I could listen to this all day. It's just, I do resonate with it so well. And I'm sure people listening to it as well would certainly resonate. And I'm hoping it will sort of
Good.
pique their curiosity and seek you out, which I
Yay.
will talk about very, very shortly. There was something else that you'd said, the eight powers that you were talking about earlier. What are these eight powers, and did you develop them, or is it like a blend of knowledge that you've received beforehand? If you know what I mean.
Yeah. I love it. So we are, when we take away all the stuff from the outside and we start going in, we are infinitely powerful and limitless. And we can embody the power of our own freedom. I'm going to say that again because that was a mouthful. Infinitely powerful and limitless, to embody the power of our inner freedom. And the realms of our souls are limitless. Okay. So, and then when you start really knowing this, now all the other powers that be and what already exists, they don't necessarily want you to find this out, because they are feeding, a lot of times they're feeding off of our energy. Okay, these lower vibrations, they want to keep us, they literally feed off of it. So when you're
Feed off a
able
negative
to
energy.
intense, oh, go ahead.
No, so I'm just
Hmm.
asking: those lower energies, did they tend to feed off a negative energy and try to keep us in that? Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay.
The frequencies, even the collective thought form that is around people. You could be in a city and it could be a collective thought. And if you're not able to meditate and go inside, that you just regurgitate all the gossip and wisdom and what's going around, and, and picking up entities. And it's not even just when you don't develop yourself. Okay, I don't want to scare people, but when you don't and develop yourself and don't start internally listening to what's in, you don't just, you're not just a victim, and I help actually people get out of those frequencies, self-righteousness and victimhood, and not looking in themselves, all that other stuff. That's actually with Vitality Unleashed Live. I help people be able to disintegrate those things so that they can go into their truth and their clarity. But you also pick up earthbound spirits. You pick up entities. Your past lives have more force that with some of the negative things, the lower energies, demonic anything, especially if you're in the paranormal stuff, right? Or if you're looking at pornography, this is stuff, negative spirit guides. People, if you have no clue about what's going on with yourself, and you don't know why you feel drained, and you don't know why this person bothers you or whatever, and those lower vibrational parts are you're not investigating these things and trying to find answers, then they just want to keep you asleep, of course.
Interesting. There might be a lot of disappointed blokes out there when it comes to the pornography bit, but it's what
Well,
you're
because
saying
you're
so
giving
far
your
is all
life force
true.
energy to
Yeah,
these people. You're actually giving, when you're giving attention, and the life force, or we won't get into too much of this. I don't know if this PG or whatever, but your life force energy is when you're orgasming, is when you're connecting to the essence of who you are. That's why it's the elevation. It's one of the highest vibration. It's the God self. So when you're giving somebody else the attention for that stimulation, and then you ejaculate or you have an orgasm, you're actually giving your power away to whatever you're giving attention to.
yeah, I've heard that before. There's a series on
This is where
YouTube.
everybody signs off.
Oh,
No, I'm
well,
just
no,
kidding. Sorry.
they better not. But I've heard this before. There's a series on YouTube, started, must be over a decade ago now, Spirit Science. And one of the episodes that was released not that long ago, actually, was about, was it masturbation and watching pornography? And they did explain
Hmm.
that doing that it's a life force that you're not only wasting, but it's better to have it shared with another life form rather than yourself. It's pretty much saying what you were saying there. And I guess,
Correct.
that does,
Or get aroused from this within spiritual connection from within. There's when you're
yeah,
connecting to the light, I'll tell you, we won't even go there, but I will. People can imagine if they're connecting and they're getting these euphoric presence, and they are practicing things like I am love. I'm born from unconditional love, imagining, embodying love, giving and receiving symbols of love. I know this is probably a little advanced, but we love our kids, we love our significant other, we love our kids for just breathing. What happens if we can do that for ourselves, and we connect to our heart love, and look for signs to appreciate, like, I don't know, rose, a dove, swans. I don't know, different gems, things like that. I'm just giving an example of things to
yeah.
appreciate in our life that resonate with us, right? The sun and the star and light is one of those things. Neutrality and that 0 point energy is also is for that. But when you're intensifying and you're practicing the love, and you are doing your love making with someone else, or you're masturbating and you're in that place of love, but it's interior instead of focusing, that's when people talk about having multiple orgasms, or that they have extended orgasms that are so much better than just popping off real quick in 2 seconds, because it's stressful, or whatever. But it's so much more. It's life-giving. It's vital. And instead of losing your energy and you feel like falling asleep or whatever, you actually increase your energy and your awareness and your experience in life.
Any men listening to this, take notes. I would say, it
Oh, and you
could.
can please your women a heck of a lot better too.
So anyone who's definitely listening, you might want to take heed of this, because I would. There must be an element of truth to it. I mean, all the older religions sort of talk about it and how it's not a good thing, and I've seen it from so many other people going down the spiritual path. They've all been saying the same thing, and it's not something that they've been regurgitating. They've said it in their own words, and it's also the way they
Correct.
say it. It sounds like it's come from like a self-realization after that, and
Yes.
and Yeah, that does make
Yes.
a lot of sense. It really does.
Yeah, I've never studied any religion. I've never even studied any spirituality stuff, not too much. I've like been spent a lot of time in isolation.
Yeah.
I've spent a lot of time with elders and all over the world in the community, people that were very spiritual, very clear. And I always admired their wisdom and their example and their peace and their connection with themselves and everything around them, and their laughter and their fun and their love that they emanated. You know what I mean? I'm not saying that right, but being able to just so what happens is you start doing this, Chris, and what happens as you develop this, and you can emanate whatever frequencies and emotion, like feelings that you want. But when you start practicing this inner development, you start emitting your own frequency. So
Yes.
wherever you walk, you actually uplift. This is our elders. This is what Jesus Christ, Buddha, some of the great, and it's not even just that there's a lot of people walking around the earth right now, that emit your own frequency. I'm emitting my own frequency. Everywhere I go, I do little soul retrievals for people by looking in their eyes, and it just happens. Things feel more uplifted. We have more fun. The area starts to laugh because your frequency is practiced and most people, one person that is connected to who they are is more powerful than a million people that are not. They are. And can you
Yeah.
imagine how we all would react when we're feeling like how things could flow and what we would be giving back? You know what I mean? So I know this came from the orgasm part and being able to, but this is incentive. This is incentive. This is not something that I just spew out because I've learned. This is coming from, like, you and we never met before really today, right? I
Yeah.
never went over these questions with you today. This is coming from people wanting to know. And
Yeah.
I don't want people to take my word for it. Connect to the damn light and find out for yourself and see things move and do stuff. Once you know it for yourself, you don't have to prove anything to anybody anymore. You believe in your own truth. And if you're not afraid to this is also a step in people's development and like what they want to say, their creative awakening or like the wow, like to call it wow moments, not just even awakening in the life,
Yeah.
right? But when you're wowing and people are trying to push you back down because it's uncomfortable for them because they don't want to do the inner work, you got to keep on going, and you got to keep on. You got to develop and the newness that is happening, and respect the self and the work that you have done, and always believe in yourself. And I think as you and I know as you're moving and you're doing that, no matter what, that you have so much more freedom inside. You have self trust, and nobody can tell you anything different because it's your experience and it feels good and it makes sense to people and happy, and it's uplifting, and it creates opportunities and possibilities and more connections, with relationships, UFOs, paranormal, whatever you want. We're here to create our own reality.
And again, that's what people have said. Loads of people have been saying that actually, who go down that route. That we do manifest our own reality, don't we? We do create it, and even some of the greatest minds in the world, scientific minds, have said that the
Mhm.
human mind is so powerful that it creates the universe, because the universe is all energy. What looks to be solid, I mean, I'm looking at a wall right behind me now, all that is just energy, and it takes your brain to
Mhm.
decode that energy and form it into a wall. So
Mhm.
what you're saying, it makes so much sense. In more ways than one, you are
Mhm.
creating your own reality. And we have the power, from
Yeah.
what you're saying, we have the power to be able to change it and alter it, and sort of influence it, steer it down a route that
Yes.
you want it to go. And that's with some,
Energy follows thought.
yeah,
But even more so though is not just it's not just the thought in the mind. The thought when your essence of who you are, the gut, and also your heart, where you feel emotions, like where you feel good things, and that's elevated. When that all comes together, you're able to find more freedom and love. The mind is just a part of It's not just the mind. But the mind focuses and directs the thought. But you have to have the feeling too. You can't just have the mind and have no feel. Like then you're just like a a computer program or a robot, or
Yeah.
you know what I mean, or like a gray. It's not. It's different. It's different. You have to have, it's developing all of those things together so there's a flow and a neutrality and an opening that happens. With the mind, you're just having the intellectual mind and just the focus, and then you have no emotion. There's no driving, there's no inspiration, there's no inspiration. It can create intention, but what's going to keep it going? You have to have your life force there too. That's what we came here to do, is to experience that powered up life force
And it
with the
takes,
mind and with our
yeah,
focused thoughts
and it
into energy.
and it takes
Right.
someone like yourself to prompt them and coach them to go down that route. And I've been reading over some of the testimonials about you and your work, and again, you've had over 30 years experience, uh, and it seems to have had an amazing effect on so many people. What are some of the most
Mm,
notable
mm.
transformations that you've seen in people that you've worked with?
Oh, thanks for asking that. So, so can I? It's more passive now. And it's a great question. So one-on-one, so what happens is now with Vitality Unleashed, I don't really work, Chris, with people one-on-one anymore. It's a lot for people.
Yeah,
And later on, like when they go through my modules on Vitality Unleashed.live and they start developing their inner world more, it's kind of like that ET frequency. And I'm not saying that I'm an ET, but I'm just saying the frequency. If people have to be ready to give stuff up real quick and allow, a lot of times if I come into their life and they're not ready or whatever, that stuff can happen really fast. Yeah, you know how you're ever working with a friend or whatever, and you have really good advice, and you know that it makes sense to them or whatever, and then they go to a lower vibration and they come back and then they blame you for being a victim or their stuff. We don't want that.
no, accountability.
So I prepare I prepare people to get rid of those things like self-righteousness and the overbearing ego and the victimhood is through the modules on Vitality Unleashed. We do an intro, we do a module on spirituality, on basic health, on love, on empowerment, your emotions and elevating your emotions to bring more money in. Just the basic things, everyday things that we do. So these are modules, and what happens is that during the time I'm channeling and I'm doing this, the spirit knows. The collective knows who's going to be listening to that and how it's going to be moving and shaking them, and bringing them close to their own truth. And like I said, I think I've got a series of 5 modules on there that just gets people clear on who they are. And then there's also more advanced things on emotional mastery, being able to open up so that you can feel your own love, and giving people the opening. I don't care if you've just started this or you've been doing it for a long time, there is tidbits in there to how to access and give yourself more unconditional love. So this is really important. So what's happening is, when I was telling you that I'm answering your question, when I am emitting my own frequency, I can go into a mall with my kids, and we'll be playing and everything, and I can sit down and go in just to a basic meditation. All of a sudden I'll look around people and they get this long, far stare in their eyes, like everybody like around, and I'll just giggle and I'll be, spirit, what is going on here? What is it? And I will see like the ancestors of the land. I will see the paranormal. I will see fragments and apparitions and all sorts of stuff. Even if it's in a mall, it could be in a setting. Rising, it shows in different ways, but I'll rising up from the ground and returning to that person as soul pieces or fragments, doing soul retrievals with people all around me so that they can become whole.
Is that like
So my frequency is increasing. So it's not just when I'm talking to people and I'm doing my modules, or when I'm doing one-on-ones. It's my whole life. It's my marketing manager. It's his whole life has changed. It's my friends that are around, their life has changed and they're empowered. I would say that I'm developing a life of people all around me that are empowered. And even when I'm walking through the mall or I'm walking places, that I'm seeing people increase their frequency and become more whole.
So I wonder what you would make of me if I was walking down the mall like that. Because quite often, I'll be walking and
Mhm.
I zone out and I probably give that long stare as well when I'm going about. You could be daydreaming when you're moving about. Is that what
Mhm.
people would do sometimes? It's like a daydream, and if it is a daydream, I'm sort of just thinking how I word this. If it is like a daydream, is that
It
when
is.
the spirit, has they need to be grounded again?
You're
Is that what we're
neutral.
saying? Yeah, neutral.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you're more neutral. So what happens is not just me, but when people have trained their frequency into love or they have a very clear intention, the ET's the same way. Military does the same thing in their own way, right? Like
yeah.
police forces, whatever that it is, mine is with unconditional love, mine's with wholeness, mine's with freedom, mine's with having vitality, being my big vitality unleashed, having vitality in the body. That is my mission. That's my statement. That's and having unconditional love and also being connected to the truth of who you are. So as I'm walking around, that's exactly what's happening. People are starting to feel vital, but sometimes they go into that 0 point energy or they go into that daydreaming or neutral or they staring and I literally see pieces of them coming back, whether it's from a past life or their ancestor that if like in Mauritius, here in Mauritius, there's a lot of people that have lived here for a long time and I've met a lot of the indigenous here. I've connected with the people here and how I've been able to see how the island was even manifested and all these other. It's beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful. This is what I'm talking about, Chris. It's not fantasy. When you start carrying and you start doing, just connecting to light, this inner world that you get to see of all worlds, and there's so much beauty to life. There's so many different things, and I'm always in awe and learning because now I'm just going with the flow and I'm allowing things to happen with my core intentions, inspirations that I have found inside of who I came here to be.
Do
You know what I mean? So, and
yeah.
everybody has that.
Do
Mhm.
people who aren't on your level or frequency, you said you sort of go with the flow. Is that annoying
Mhm.
to some people who aren't on that same level? Because my girlfriend has
They
always
don't even
told
see
me,
me.
yeah,
They don't even see me.
my girlfriend has always told me that I'm so laid back and going with the flow sometimes, and it seems to irritate her a little bit with how go with the flow I normally am. Just trying to cuff things. I mean, the line of work that I'm in, I have to do a lot of planning and a lot of thinking. And whenever I go home, I like to switch off and just go with the flow.
Yeah.
Uh, and does that? I guess going back to the question to make it simple, do people find that annoying when you're around them,
I don't know if it does anymore so much. I'm sure
or
in
even
all
did it used
honesty,
to?
before I bumped along and worried about that, but I don't worry about it so much. I know how can I explain, what's the best way to go about this for your experience and for your listeners? I
Was it?
go back, I go back to, okay, honey, like going back to the orgasm thing. Okay, be present.
Yeah,
Be completely present in a sexual nature and completely honoring who you are and who you are and who she is and connecting to that air. It's connecting to like the proof and being able to be within the body or just being present in a conversation and like laughing at each other, even if you're breathing and looking at each other and taking a present and moment. Like you can even give examples. We flow in the breath, don't we? Our
yeah,
heart beats and flows with our body and gets our blood to certain organs and all through, and we're alive, right? Like in that sense, if you have to do it like so basic, and that you're just wanting to be more open to being able to be in that flow of life so things are working out versus okay, so you said that. So here's the thing, this is where the disconnect is a little bit. So what happens is you say in your daily thing, you're having to do, a lot of rigid things, what people are asking for you. You don't have a lot of stuff, input, but you actually do have more input than you think, Chris. And
yeah,
when you start practicing this, you're going to notice that you bring out the best even in your job, even if it is in something, that is very rigid or strict, right?
yeah.
That you will notice because when you emanate your own frequency, you ask for things to match you in every circumstance. Okay. Now, with something that is very rigid and it's in place, it's just practiced over and over and over again.
Yeah.
So it has a pretty stable frequency, it has a pretty stable pattern. But when you're doing that for yourself and you're wanting what's best for yourself, and you will see things actually shaking a little bit loose so that you can feel even more flow in your job. So that when you start doing that, and then when you come home where you don't have to switch it off, what you were saying, you have to switch it off, and then you just feel like that you're in the flow. I don't feel like that's totally all the way true, to be honest with you. When you're switching off, you just don't want to think and you don't want to do anything anymore, and you don't want to do, you just don't want to think. You just want to, a lot of people, I'm not saying they'll watch TV, they'll do whatever. There's nothing wrong with that. But if you're also not taking time and space to listen to what your inner needs are, and then you can participate with your family, with your loved one, in a meditation or in a breathing exercise, and be able to say, I'd like to just know and write about what I feel inside and how I'd like to elevate this emotion, or whatever that comes to a certain person. And exercise, it can be connecting to the light to recharge. And you in that meditation, as you're recharging, please, this is what the light does, this is what this meditation does. And you'll come up with your own meditation, or your viewers, if they do this, they'll come up with a meditation that resonates best with who they are. This is just an example, and to get people jump started. Like when you're bringing in light, and you're the source of your light, and you're connecting to your star, you're connecting with the earth. You're asking, as the illumination is happening, I want the illumination to come up into my brain so that I feel clear. I want it behind my eyes so that I can see clearly. I want it behind my ears so that I can hear more clearly. I want it to illuminate my whole throat so when I'm communicating, it can be more clear. I want to illuminate my heart so when somebody's speaking to me and I'm speaking to myself, I can really truly understand what I mean with clarity, and what emotions are there, and how to identify them and honor them, and then elevate them if I choose. I want to go into my digestive tract, what it needs to be cleared out there, my root and my sexual organs, my back, my spine, all these things. It's taking those moments. It's kind of we're going back all the way to the beginning of where we started, which is beautiful, because I think we're like right at the end of this. It has that 10% of time that we connect with ourselves on a daily basis, even if you start 5 or on the hour, every hour, or when you get breaks or whatever, that you're just connecting to yourself interiorly. That will move the needle of being able to start listening and emitting your frequency and having inspiration, intention for your own life, versus being reactive and pulled in all different directions and siphoned and and tired and all these other things. And it increases your vitality and your relationships and your work. I don't want people to take my word for it. I just try it. Try just doing a simple exercise, or ask for a meditation that a person can connect to, that is their own deity, or maybe they are religious and something does, but bring in the illumination, and don't give your power away to something else that has already existed. And like, I'm even talking about religion and other spirituality. Give yourself the benefit of the doubt to bring the self-realization and that light within, because you have the universal wisdom for all of these answers with your girlfriend or whatever that it is. But you have to start cultivating that so that you can explain and she can feel that it comes from. So even people that are skeptical or that don't want to listen to this, if you're able to feel into who they are and understand, because you're understanding yourself. You can't understand somebody else if you can't understand yourself, right? You can't do it. So if you're able to understand, you're able to articulate it in a way and talk like we're talking here, that can create some understanding, neutrality, some love, some compassion, some energy
Yeah.
matching,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Some communication. So it really goes back to when you say that you want to be in the flow. I would consider the flow. Okay, honey, I just want to be in the flow, and you don't want to do a whole but can I take a moment? I need to see how I'm feeling right now, and checking in, and then doing a breathing exercise, bringing yourself and your body, sharing some intimacy, but sharing the intimacy from the inside out first.
And yeah, and I think a lot of people tend to struggle with that. And I was sort of thinking, the meditation as well. If you mention meditation to a lot of people, they're like, "Oh, meditation is hard. I don't know how to do it." But meditation's really simple, isn't it? I mean, and you sort of
Yeah.
hinted to that throughout the last sort of hour that we've been speaking.
Yeah.
It could be something
Yeah.
as simple as a
It's a dialogue for me
visualization.
too. It's the same way. Oh,
Yeah, it could be
sorry.
something.
Sorry,
No,
Chris.
that's fine.
Okay.
It's something as simple as a visualization. It could be something as simple as focusing on your breath.
Correct.
And when I was studying Buddhism about a decade ago now, one of my Buddhist teachers, he was telling me that like even walking can be a meditation. You just focus on the feeling
Yes.
of your feet and the motion of walking that close against your body. So you don't. It's meditation is
Presence.
not. Yeah, meditation is not necessarily sitting down, legs folded, trying to clear your mind for ages. Anything you do could be a meditation, and you sort of like
Sure.
indicated to that today that would be the case. So somebody who thinks, okay, I'd like to give this a try. Is there a sort of meditation that you would sort of recommend for them to start out with, or to begin with?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, so the light meditation, you can go into vitalityunleashed.live and you can sign up for a masterclass. And when you sign up for the masterclass, you get a meditation. And you also get, I think, me speaking to one of the clients, and we talk about the meditation. But you can even, if you resonate with something, okay, here's a good thing. Mm, like a storytelling or mm, how everybody has a recorder on their phone.
Yeah,
Okay, so in order to be able to be neutral and still the mind for a moment, I'm talking, this is just base. Sometimes I have to, sometimes I do this too. And all the rest of the times when I'm creating modules and stuff, it just comes. But everybody has to start somewhere. And this will work for everybody, is you record your own voice and talk yourself through a meditation, saying whatever. Just practice being creative and, oh, the walls are white and I see the bright light. And how does that feel on my body? I'm going to go ahead and close my eyes. You know what I mean? I feel my feet on the floor. I am taking a deep breath in. I know that this is, pretty basic. Okay, I'm breathing in. I'm holding, I'm breathing in for 5. I'm holding for 5. I'm feeling my heartbeat in between the holding the breath and out for 5 times. And then you record yourself breathing, right? Doing that. And it's interesting that people go down this like rabbit hole of like, whoa, that's what I sound, or what, or how can I deepen this, or how can, and it helps them with wanting them to inner focus and start, and it practice the creativity in the imagination. Maybe a story comes up from when you're a child, or connecting to light. Okay, I'm supposed to connect to the light. Let me take my 5 breaths in, on 5, in, hold 5, exhale 5 times. All right. And then, so something pops in your head. Okay, so this is what I'm seeing popping in my head. This really bothered me. This is how it made me feel. Okay, all right. And how would I like to elevate my emotions about this? How would I like to feel about this? I don't care what that I'm just doing anything random, because people will make excuses to develop their inner self.
yeah,
This is a very easy way that there's no excuses, right? And if you can't even hear the sound of your own voice and you feel that, that's a shadow. So you get to a point where you are comfortable with hearing your voice and you're comfortable with telling yourself a meditation. So if you're uncomfortable with hearing your voice and you're uncomfortable with who you are, how do you expect anybody else to be comfortable with your voice and who you are in your presence? It can't happen.
interesting
Energy
thought.
attracts energy. There's so many beautiful details that can come out of just that simple practice.
It's an interesting thought. That I never really thought of it like that before, and yeah, it's a bit of an eye opener, really. Whenever you describe it like that, you make it sound so much more. You make it sound simpler than what people think It is, it's
It's always simple,
yeah.
Chris. It really is. If this is what I do is demystify. I go deep really quick, but people can ask a question, or I can be in front of like yourself. So this is me and you, and this is resonating with you because you and I are on this conversation, and whoever else comes in. And I so am so grateful that we're able to be able to speak. And I know that there's just so many nuggets here for people, and I hope that they take it and resonate. Whatever, it doesn't have to be all of it. Pay attention. Don't pay attention what that doesn't work, because then that's where your energy is going. What doesn't work for me? This girl is talking about this and that. I have no idea. She's all over the place. I can't even understand. Well, I'm at a different vibration than you are, probably. Okay, but what are you able to hear, and what resonated? And practice that inside of yourself. See if it resonates. If it doesn't resonate with you at all, that's okay too. But remember, your focus and energy, they follow each other. And if you are thinking certain things about this thing, ask yourself, am I being a victim? Am I being am I judging this person? Am I judging myself? Or you can say, wow, there was so much good stuff here about unconditional love and meditation and sex and how to connect with others and how to connect with the light and how to contact UFOs and be able to do the paranormal stuff. And there's so many beautiful tidbits here, and put your appreciation on those things. And again, where's your vibe? Where are your thoughts going, and how can this benefit you? I don't care. I'm doing my work, right? I want people, if they're inspired and they resonate with this, I want it to move their life. I want them to find more love. I want them to find more communication. And your show, people want to reach out. They want to know about UFOs, maybe past lives, paranormal. This is one of those ways, or many of the ways, that you can do that. But it starts with the inner wisdom, and it starts with awareness and self.
Yeah, and that is that's absolutely fascinating. It triggers so many thoughts and so many more questions I could ask. It's
Yum.
amazing. Honestly,
We
it
could do
is
it again,
amazing.
Chris.
We could do it. I am, but 100%. You need to come back on to this podcast because there's so much more I could just listen and speak about. But there's another thing that's popped into my head before because it's like an hour and 13 that we've been recording now, and there's another couple of things that's popped into my head, and I'll ask them, either way. But I was reading on your website something that really interested me, and I'll tell you why in just a moment. But you had mastered telekinesis and remote viewing and aura reading and that sort of stuff. When you say telekinesis, are you literally talking about the interaction with matter from the mind? And the reason that bit interests me is because,
You're gonna love this.
yeah, well, I can't wait to hear it because before, years ago, whenever I was in high school and between high school and college and through college, I was a semi-professional magician. I like doing magic and illusions and that sort of stuff, and I can easily replicate that sort of stuff. But to see it done, properly, that would be astounding. Is that what?
So
Is what you're saying here?
I think it's where people focus their thing, but my particular thing is within being able to bring awareness to people's inner self so that they can transcend any emotional blocks, and that cause, like, the spiritual into the emotion that cause the physical ailments. Okay. So you're going to love this take on it. But I think that if you just step back and your listeners step back from what they've listened to so far, that they could probably understand how I'm going to approach the telekinesis or remote viewing. So the telekinesis, it depends on so the matter is wonderful. The matter is being able to do it, but nobody will be able to learn telekinesis unless they've mastered and elevated, learning to master their emotions, number one, and
Yeah.
their inner focus, because that's where it starts. All the tools that somebody needs to learn about telekinesis are on this podcast.
Interesting.
Uh-huh. So if you can't even have an inner focus and an inner awareness of energy and your emotions and the universal wisdom, and be able to focus that energy and be aware of your energy system, What makes you think that you can change any kind of matter? Because what you do actually, when you emit your own frequency and you start going inward and you start being a master of your experience and you start creating your own reality, which we are creating, but most people are puppets on a string a lot of the time, right? Telekinesis, that's just a natural, it's a side effect. Do you see
Yeah.
what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I was telling you, like connecting and, increasing your frequency to be able to connect with UFOs because your inner world becomes more expansive. You realize that the universe is not out there. You realize the universe is within,
Yeah.
and you harness that energy, and then you can use it to be able to assist people to that, like when I go into meditations and doing wholeness work, doing wellness work, doing holistic work, people call it healing sometimes, or leading people to be able to heal, as the greatest shamans and the curanderos and the medicine people and all the people that I've studied and been with. This is, it's where you put your focus, and they've mastered these things. You master these things. So telekinesis again is a side effect. Same with remote viewing. Now, remote viewing for me, I learned the opposite way, because remember we were talking about the emotions, and that when I was young, I was so sensitive and I loved people, and I was just open. I was open, 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 like most of us are. And I just loved people. I came here like feeling like an angel, like just loving people. And I saw them as part of me. I knew we were all one. And when people were in pain or what, I would hold their hand and I would want them to feel better. I would want them to do better, or I would want to take it away from them or whatever that it was, right? So the remote viewing, I started learning by by force because I started realizing and understanding who was watching me,
And for
who was
anyone
watching,
who,
who was coming into my energy,
yeah, for
who was
anyone,
doing that. So I was remotely viewing them from my essence. And
yeah.
then when you learn to see your emotional, when you start understanding what is your own emotions, what's your own energy versus somebody else's, then you can start remote viewing.
And for anyone who doesn't know what remote viewing is,
Oh, good. There
it's
you
a
go.
very, very, it's real. I mean, I have done it myself, always surprised myself. And remote viewing, no thought or nothing, no action is safe from remote viewing, because if I remember correctly, remote viewing can see anything, or see, get into any thought from any point in time. So much so that the CIA had trialed and tested, especially in the Cold War, and they were able to identify, what was it, Soviet submarine base
Hmm.
in the north of Russia.
Yeah.
They were able to see that. I think it was Ingo Swan, I think was the name. And it very much is real. My experience with it, I'll give you a very quick recap.
Yeah,
Yeah,
please.
I will. There was an app called, well, it's to do with remote viewing. I can't remember. RV Tournament, might be remote viewing tournament. You can download it, and it's free to download, free to use, and see how it works for you. But anyway, and they tell you, they give you a target
Or all
number.
of our governments are on that one.
Yeah, they
Sure.
give you a target number for you to work with, and then you have to write down what you see or what you sense or what you visualize in your head, etc. And I was just sitting there, thinking, well, I feel there's this color here, I feel, this, that, or the other, and then all of a sudden, without explanation, I got a very sudden, like, flash of a vivid image in my head. And the best way I could have described it was like a grey golf ball up close, loads of little indentations. And I was like, well, a golf ball, up close. And I was describing it on this thing. And then afterwards, once you say that you've done, it gives you three options, or does it give you three? It gives you something, what it is you thought you saw, or what the image actually was, and you have to move it like a slider, percentage slider between these images. And the image that I saw was it was like it was like all these little indentations. It wasn't a golf ball, but it was like water droplets with the exact same color, the exact same angle, the exact same sort of. It just looked the same. It's just I interpreted it as a golf ball, but it was actually all these little water droplets, the exact same color, and it looked exactly like I saw it in my mind. So I can
Mm-hmm.
say that this works 100%. I've seen it
Mm-hmm.
taught, and I've seen it
Exhilarating,
presented.
isn't it?
Yes, it is.
That's you
It's
connecting with that
amazing.
universal wisdom,
Exactly.
the
It is.
unlimited, the infinite, powerful, and limitless
Yeah.
freedom that we ultimately have. Now why is not, because it is so cool, why has not everybody learned how to do this and connect with people and do things? Because it's repressed.
Yeah. It very much is. And, if you're sort of thinking that
Hmm.
anyone listening to this, that, oh, that must be woo woo, it really isn't. I implore you to get online and research the CIA and remote viewing, and you will be astounded that the amount of money that they spent researching remote
Hmm.
viewing. And the movie, I think, The Man Who Stares at Goats, is based on the events that the CIA were using during the Cold War.
The man that stares at
I
goats?
think that's
That's
I think I
great.
think that's what the movie's called. I think that's what it's called. It's been
That's
a while since I've seen it, but that movie, that's I think that's its name, is it's based on what the CIA did all those years ago. Absolutely fantastic movie. It's been a while since I've seen it, but I hope I've got the name right. I really do. But it is a real thing. I'll begin wrapping this up now, and I will have you back on at some point, no doubt, because we could easily. I think this is the
Thanks,
longest
Chris.
podcast I've ever recorded, and it just flows so well. So there's
Aw,
so much more to say. I identify that, but
amazing.
before we do wrap this
Hmm.
up, okay, for anyone who might be interested in what you said today and might like to take part in one of your masterclasses or even contact you, can you remind them again where they can find you, and do you have any published works for them?
Yeah, sure, sure. So vitalityunleashed.live, and you can go in and you can sign up for a masterclass. You'll get a free meditation there. You're going to be able to see the modules that might be able to resonate with you. There's like different subscription levels, but it's very powerful stuff, and it doesn't matter. So you can go at your own pace with these type of things too. And then also, depending on where you, what membership level that you get, then you will have contact with me on a Facebook group. I download new modules based on what people are feeling, thinking, what they need to move in their own life. And it is profound, it's powerful. You meet incredible like minded people that are, long term friendships, people that are on the same understanding, that have the same, hiccups or going through and find solutions. You can practice with each other with this. It's really cool. And the modules, again, they're on spirituality and opening those. And it's not anything that's forced, it's your own spirituality. I want to be very clear with this. It's your discovering your own essence, discovering your own frequency, being able to open up the places in love so you can have better relationships. There's many bonus modules on there, and of course, what's really important now, for is prosperity, is money, being able to be in a state of receiving. I have an amazing module on there that opens up to be able to receive money. Health. We have modules, on how to clear your field and how to, do different things and experiment with your own energy and be able to enter into a place of vitality, more vitality within the body to push out, the stuff that doesn't really belong there or that does not, add to our life force. We want, that's a whole thing, vitality unleashed. We want, and I'm sure people can feel that from me as we're on here. That's what it's all about, right? Okay, and love, I think I've got everything, as far as that. And then again, there's always bonuses and things that are, it's a very interactive. And some people don't want to be that interactive, or they don't want to get into the modules. modules, well, the modules, the first level is only 5 or 6 hours. So you can listen to that when you're sleeping, you can do whatever, and your life really, really does some huge transmutation because you're listening, you're taking the time of the energy to go within. And so that's a really good start. It's a focus that brings people within and they start seeing their lives change. And then there's also particular modules just for people if they're in that interest, so they don't have to do the whole subscription and they don't have to commit to anything that deep. So yeah, and you will find us there, and we're upgrading the website and doing all of that other stuff too, so just be patient with us. But we have the full website masterclass. It's established, it's been there, and what's really, really wonderful, Chris, is that we're so confident with this and that we've been around for a while, we're going to continue to be around, is that we give people a lifetime guarantee. So if they're not satisfied, nothing has moved, they get their money back fully, completely.
You
Lifetime.
cannot argue with that. I mean,
Mhm.
that sounds
Yeah.
really good. And I might even, do you know what? I might
You
even
just
give it a
can't
crack
upgrade.
myself.
But you can't go through all the modules and keep on upgrading and say, wow, this is really cool, and then ask for your money back, because that's not right. But yes.
Well, no, that's a moral thing, isn't it? That's definitely not right, and should be discouraged indeed. But you know what? The money thing at the minute sounds fantastic, because I'm paying for flying lessons, and whenever I get my pilot's license, I will want my own plane, so I don't have to rent one out. So maybe I should take a look into this, because that would be very, very good, I would think. Very, very good indeed.
Well, it's not very expensive. We made it very reasonable for people, so it's not like thousands and thousands of dollars. When I was doing one-on-one sessions with people and blowing their hair back and doing stuff, it would be anywhere from $4,000 to $10,000 a session. That's how much people's lives were changing, and I just didn't like people. That's not doable. I only have so much time, and we all have needs and we have things to do. So the modules is a better thing, and it's also, and it's very reasonable. So people are not it's economical, it's valuable, it's more valuable. We give you more than you would ever expect or feel like you would need, and it's in a very concise, organized, and it makes sense for people too. You just can't go wrong, and so that's why we did this. That's why we did it this way.
And what have you got to lose? It sounds like a win-win, really. Nothing to lose, and if it doesn't resonate with you, you can easily back out of it. But what you've said today, it should resonate with people. That's for sure. And I must say, while this topic is not my strongest, I found it very informative, and I'm sure my listeners did too, and extremely interesting to listen to and discuss. Andrea, thank you so much for taking the time to speak to me today. It was fantastic to speak to you, and I will definitely get you back on. And be well and speak soon.
Okay, sounds good. Bye, everybody. Bye, Chris.
Bye. A massive thank you to Andrea there. And there was a lot of interesting and helpful advice in there, and it really does show that the amount of knowledge and wisdom that you can procure from 3 decades of study and experience is phenomenal. And it's all rolled into one with Andrea, and I'm sure you can agree that she's definitely a master of her skills. If you're interested in looking into it further or would like to know more about her masterclasses, you can of course find all relevant links in the show notes accompanying this episode below. Coming up in the next episode, I'm speaking to Philip Mantle, a well-known UFO researcher and former director of investigations at Bufora. He talks to me about a largely unknown UFO and abduction encounter along the Mississippi River, but it is perhaps one of the best cases in terms of witnesses and evidence. So don't miss that one. I'm Chris McMurray. You've been listening to the Close Encounters podcast, and until next episode, have a good week.